Well, spawning in the top right-hand position of Frost, he's 1-0 up in this best of 3. In the first round of Group H, it is Alien Invasion's CPU.
Yes, and his Terran opponent in the bottom left, the red Terran from Team Mouse Control. He's teetie. And, well, not the most impressive forms of online handles I've seen, but, you know, if he plays well, then people will have to learn to respect him.
I really actually like CPU's name. I just think it's cool. I like those simple, concise names. Maybe that's just me.
Well, they're easy to memorize, you know. We got another player on Team Mouse Control whose nickname is Hephaestus, which is a Greek god, which is cool in its own right, but it's something that if you've ever had to learn a lot about Greek culture in high school or something, then you tend to mix those names up quite quickly. Like, it's not Hades, it's Hephaestus. Oh, okay.
See, I think this is where the caster side of me comes out and wins through that. A cool name is cool, but if it's too confusing to pronounce, then I die a little inside.
Oh. Well, I think Hephaestus is far enough on the cool side.
Oh yeah, definitely.
To mention.
Anyway, this game, gonna get Reapers coming out yet again from teetie. He's gone racks into that gas. Meanwhile, over on CPU's side, 1 gas, 1 gate. Too early to say any kind of predictions of what he's doing. It's pretty much able to do anything other than a proxy 2 gate at this stage. So, no easy way to just predict that through. But Frost as a map, not a good Blink Stalker all-in map, like we saw last game. It can still work, but I think we should be seeing a bit of a longer game here.
Yeah, definitely. The sheer size of Frost, of course, tends to cater quite well to Stargate play from the Protoss. At the very least against Zerg, but some Protosses really don't mind opening Stargate against Terran. Allows for interesting timing with Phoenix Colossus in the mid-game, as well as, of course, the very solid Proxy Oracle opener, which can do a lot of damage if the Terran isn't prepared.
Now we do have teetie scouting out exceptionally early with this SCV. Wants to find out where his opponent is, and that's actually really smart play, because if you're down a game in a best of 3, your opponent very well may risk doing something very all-in, very aggressive, or very greedy. So just getting that early information should give teetie ample opportunity to basically respond to that and make sure nothing's going too onto plan.
Yep. So far he has managed to locate his opponent's base and will be scouting ASAP. He will notice that there is no second gas yet for his opponent, at least if this SCV moves into vision range. Okay, he never actually scouts the second gas. That's a bit... I see what he's doing. This is a nice little move here with the bunker. And actually probes are going to be pulled.
It's quite scary. Getting this bunker down kind of alleviates the weakness of the Reaper, which is actually a head-on fight to be fairly effective. The bunker getting focused. It is still being constructed though, so maybe allowed to finish up. I think with this many probes, it won't be able to actually be done. Counter comes through though, and this is a lot of lost mining time now for CPU.
Well, never mind the lost mining time. He's killed 4 probes. And is this Reaper even going to escape? Oh, he actually gets away. So that's a huge winner for the Terran. And that was such a cool move. I've never actually seen a Terran do that. He perfectly punished his Protoss opponent for not getting an early Stalker or a Mothership Core. His greed was punished, which is something I actually rarely see in early PvT these days. And CPU seems to agree.
It's a nice build. I've seen it, I think, once before. But generally, if the bunker comes down, it comes outside the natural, out of vision range. So just putting it there actually makes your opponent freak out a bit. And the mind game worked. It allowed those probe kills to come through. CPU only just scouting his opponent now because of this, so has very late information about what actually teetie's doing.
Yeah, and he's actually going to throw down a proxy pylon all the way to the other side of the map. So I do expect him to be proxying something, but the question is, what? He heavily delayed his gases, so whatever tech he will be making will be heavily delayed, and teetie is just in such a solid position. He's actually adding on double barracks, so he's looking to go for a pretty hefty medevac timing from the looks of it.
And that would be a really nice follow-up. And interestingly, a game from CPU, we're getting the proxy Twilight Council, could be for Blink, also the possibility that we'll be seeing Dark Templar come through early. Both fairly good on this map, especially the Dark Templar, since we don't see an engineering bay out of teetie. Perhaps CPU identified that earlier, but for the moment, CPU gonna have to spend, or would want to spend, a photon overcharge, but the mothership core only just being produced now.
Yeah, CPU decided to cut even more corners than he already was, opting to go for a very late mothership core, and will be punished for it once again. The Stalkers all the way up to the middle, Marines down the mineral line, actually focusing down this mothership core rather than the probes. No, there they go, killing off a whole lot of these probes, and Stalkers make it down, pretty late. And he does save the mothership core, but the workers count up is workers killed count is up all the way to 10.
Even though there's been those 10 worker kills, CPU is just macroing incredibly efficiently. He's still only one worker down compared to his opponent, and is adding on the Dark Shrine. So that was delayed a little bit, just by having to deal with this push. But teetie, despite getting a lot of damage down, surprisingly, isn't actually that far ahead.
No, and I really think that's a mistake on his part. I think his macro slipped quite a bit. He should be on. He should have had more Marines there during that attack. Usually when you see a Marine move out like that, it's double the amount of Marines which you see, which could have almost been game ending, to be fair, because CPU was still on one gate. So I think his macro slipped quite a bit, and he's trying to catch up with that by going for a third command center. However, he didn't scan. He's not anticipating any form of counter aggression, because he didn't see any threatening tech when he was in the base with a Reaper, and this proxy DT shrine is pretty much going to catch him off guard.
And this is where some great damage can be done. And it's not an all-in or anything like that, because the Robotics Bay coming down behind this. I love the addition of the Warp Prism. It's going to allow those DTs to get dropped in the main, avoiding the quite frequent missile turret outside the natural. But there's also a push coming through now from teetie.
Yep, this is
with
of
2
course...
medevacs and all this, it's powerful.
Yeah, this is of course the dreaded medevac timing, which we see ever so often. The amount of defense for CPU is minimal, to say the least. Only 3 gates, a single robo, getting an immortal, and he has 1 photon overcharge available. So teetie is going to be able to pick his target and pick up the mothership. Well, no, actually he's just going to fight this.
And it's the right move to make. There's basically nothing here. So many probes are going to go down. Photon overcharge, not that great when obviously there's Marauders in the mix, but just through surrounding with the probes and warping in a Dark Templar, he buys himself time. It does reveal the DTs, but guess what? There's already 2 being dropped into the main. A scan goes down, gonna get neither of them.
Oh.
And there isn't any more energy yet.
Yeah, there isn't. Once scan finally finishes and he can kill the one in the main, cleans that one up, but there's another warp in available. Actually, Warp Prism moving towards the natural now. teetie needs to get some freaking turrets up here, man.
He's trying. He attempted to build one at the natural base, but the DT picked it off quickly. And now we're seeing CPU get some really quite substantial damage. Another scan used. Now the energy's gone, but of course another warp in on its way through.
He still hasn't built a missile turret in his main. He really needs to do that. I mean, of course, he has 3 command centers, which allow for plenty, more than plenty of scans, but you know, these TTs are still killing SCVs, and that's not something you really want to have as a Terran.
And they're doing a surprisingly large amount of damage. Sure,
Oh
the missile turret is going to be allowed to finish up, but regardless, 17 SCVs killed by this DT harassment. The main base still vulnerable to DTs if the Warp Prism is used anymore.
Yeah, so teetie kind of messing up here in his defense. You know, you need to get those turrets down ASAP if you know there's Dark Templar out on the map, and I kind of feel he mishandled that situation, but he is still on 3 command centers with 5 barracks and medevac tech, so he should be able to, you know, get a substantial force out, whereas the CPU is still focusing heavily on his tech and infrastructure.
CPU likely to be aiming towards a big push. He's going up to 7 gates with the Robo and also the Archons in the mix. That's basically all of his money getting pumped into this next aggressive play. He's got a proxy pylon and he's going to be meeting CPU in the middle of the map. I'm not sure this is actually good for teetie, because teetie doesn't have a huge army. With that many gateways about to come kicking in, it's a huge amount of burst production from CPU, and he should be able to hold off this push with relative ease.
Yeah, CPU, his greed has not been punished enough, it seems. He's still in a quite a good position economically as well as in terms of tech. Of course, no third base for him yet, whereas teetie is taking his, and the armies almost in comical fashion have decided to move around each other. And there's actually no mothership core of this, so he cannot recall back.
He can't. He can get a big wave of warp instead, but that won't be able to stop this army. So CPU either has to go for it or try and retreat, opting to fall back, but he loses the natural nexus. A Colossus there just in time will be able to finish off most of this army in theory, but he's suffered a big loss from not moving back sooner.
A huge loss, and the army's still not there to fight off this heavy bioforce, and TT really using the mobility. CPU needs to somehow prevent TT from picking up and getting out of base. He needs to pick up now, otherwise he loses his entire force though.
He's not just picking up now. Blink isn't done, so there's no way for these Stalkers to lay chase. This was an amazing play by the Terran.
Yeah.
No natural for CPU anymore. Meanwhile, behind this, TT took his third. A massive economic lead for him, but can he hold off the follow-up push from CPU?
He really needs to realize that his opponent is completely all in. He scans the natural, sees that there's no nexus being remade, and he needs to realize this right now, and I expect him to do so. 2-2 upgrades is on the way just to make sure, and he needs to, centralize his army, get a good concave. Pick up the Warp Prism would be huge, but it just gets away in time. Doesn't want to overextend here though, actually tries to focus on the Colossi, and it doesn't seem like there's all that much firepower here left for the Protoss.
There's not that much, but there's still the 2 Colossi, and they are the big damage dealers against this bio. Sure, there's a couple of Vikings coming through, but CPU attempting to do everything he can. A scan just to take a peek at everything. All the while, just a handful of units ready to counter
Oh
attack.
my god. Nice pick up there by CPU, force fielding off that segment of the army. TT going in full macro mode, perhaps gonna have to pull SCVs here to fight this off. Needs the Vikings to kill these Colossi, otherwise this army is just so deadly.
I love the use of the Warp Prism pickup of the Colossus as well, just to give that a bit more safety. A lot of SCVs clumped up in the back of the Colossi, find them, it's gonna be a roasting. And they clump up very tightly. One Colossus falls though, the Orbit Command is also going to go down, and both players taking significant losses.
Yes, indeed. Still no natural being remade for the Protoss. The second Colossus is still up, but all the Vikings are gone at this point. 2 more are about to spawn, and it's a battle for the high ground, but I feel there's just too much Terran force here right now for the Protoss to deal with.
Especially with the Vikings then. That means the Colossus falls and a retreat from CPU is inevitable. And if both players were only on one base, there may still be a fight in it, but TT, he's got his third base, and that leaves CPU needing nothing short of a miracle to be able to win this game now.
CPU actually didn't scout the third of his opponent. He doesn't know he's mining off it because he still hasn't seen the orbital. There was a drop in the main of CPU, and he took down several pylons, meaning 3 of his gateways as well as his robo were unpowered. So he's been kind of dead in the water. Here comes a fight. Big stim forward here from the Terrans. And he's wiping the floor with what's left of the Protoss army. GG. And TT ties up the series.